just winging my cold outreach conversations was barely bringing me $2,000 a month. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the changes that I actually made to my cold outreach strategy and effectiveness and habits and everything around cold outreach to help me reach my first $10,000 a month within 5 days of making these tweaks. Let's hop into it. Cold outreach is really great. It allows you to profitably bring in clients with next to no acquisition cost, right? It's just your time. It's just you putting in volume, grinding in some cases to bring in revenue, bring in new clients, right? So cold outreach is personally how I reached my first $10,000 a month. Of course, I can't say it was purely cold outreach. I was posting content on LinkedIn during that time, but my content honestly was not that great at the time. I wasn't generating any inbound leads for it. So if anything, it might have added a bit of credibility. But cold outreach has been my primary channel in driving revenue in my business, and it actually still is to this day. However, cold outreach has one main drawback. It's manual, very manual in some cases. And for most people, it can be an absolute drag. I have to wake up and I have to go do cold outreach. It's almost a bit subhuman in some ways, having to go out there and do cold outreach and just send hundreds and hundreds of messages, right? I get it. I've been there. And for a lot that are actually getting out there and doing it, it can actually be just an absolute guessing game, right? A black box of information. They have no clue what's going on, no clue on who's accepting their connection request, no clue on who's seeing their messages, no clue on who's responding. Maybe you're going through this as well, right? You're manually sending out 20 connection requests on a daily basis on LinkedIn. One by one, you're following up with each new connection, in your DMs, and you're just winging it with a new icebreaker every single time. You're asking a new question, you're showing up with a new angle, you're trying to personalize, you're following a script. Or if you are doing some tracking, it's most likely in a pretty janky spreadsheet that has numbers here, numbers there. Sometimes you're tracking meetings booked. Sometimes you're tracking responses going out. It's not up to date. You're updating it at the end of the day. And you're probably getting pretty frustrated. Like, it's pretty demoralizing. You're not having that many responses. Your conversion rate is low. People, these prospects, they don't know you. They don't trust you. They have no reason to respond to you. And you kind of feel insane in some cases. You're reaching out to them over and over again, no response. And it's probably very frustrating to deal with. I know from firsthand experience. The truth is, this is the time-intensive, annoying, amateur, old way of doing cold outreach. And I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't struggle with this style of outreach myself far too long. I'm embarrassed to say. And I kept telling myself, I didn't want to fix what wasn't broken. Cold outreach is great. I'm sending volume, but it was broken. It was broken. I was running around every single morning, every single day, like a chicken with my head cut off, having no clue where I should prioritize, what I should say, how often to follow up. It was just an absolute fiasco. And after months of doing cold outreach this way, I really started to burn out. I started to really avoid cold outreach. I started to really hate working on my business. It wasn't fun. I wasn't seeing results. Anyone's going to stop if they keep doing the same thing over and over again and they don't see better results. And that's when I decided to make the switch towards automation, systems and processes, and delegation to boost my cold outreach efforts. So let's get into it. Let's talk automation. So automation is fantastic. This is honestly something that I implemented pretty early on in my business, but helping me automate LinkedIn connection requests, LinkedIn messages, emails, and sending them out on mass volume. And then when replies come in, you're able to handle those warm conversations. Now, automation is great. You also want to make sure that you have the right messaging. If you're scaling and automating what is, in theory, a crap message, you're just going to get a lot of no responses, crap responses, right? So really focusing on the manual side first, making sure your message is resonating with who you're talking to, and then eventually automating. And I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man, and not the new Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire classic Spider-Man, right? And all the saying is the same, but with great power comes great responsibility. And that is very, very true for automation. You have the capability to reach hundreds of thousands of people on a weekly, monthly basis without any additional cost other than just base software and no additional time to you, right? But like I said, if you're scaling a message that's 5 paragraphs, here's a Calendly link, here's a PDF, this is what I do, here's my results. I mean, nobody's going to respond to that. I always want to make sure when I'm using automation and setting things up for my clients as well is making sure that we're using these messages to generate some interest, spark a conversation, but not go off the rails talking about me. This is what I do, all that sort of good stuff. You have to use it responsibly, or else, you can get in trouble, right? Google can come after you, LinkedIn can come after you. You really want to use it responsibly and boost what's already working. Now, the second piece, leaning into systems and processes, was I developed an avatar. I actually decided to niche down. After 9 months of my business, reaching out to anybody and everybody, I was trying to sell to anyone with a pulse, just reach them. Here's what I do. Can I help software companies, service providers, manufacturers, just trying all new different types of messaging. No, I had to focus in and develop an avatar, a niche. For me, high ticket B2B service providers, mainly coaches and consultants. And what this actually allowed me to do when I developed the profile of the person that I was reaching out to, I researched, what are some common pains they experience? Being somewhat of a consultant myself, I had the ability to tap into a lot of that. And if you are starting your business, trying to serve your past self, how did you feel a year ago? How did you feel 2 years ago, right? Tap into those current pains and then also understand the goal state. So you have the current state and the goal state. What that actually helped me to do is craft messaging in a really solid way that allowed me to show up more like a doctor or a trusted advisor in their DMs versus an absolute clown just trying to say, what's your biggest challenge? How's business going, right? It doesn't work. And in doing so, by truly understanding my avatar, I was able to build insane trust and credibility very quickly. They didn't have to go through and consume, YouTube videos or LinkedIn posts. They didn't have to go consume a lead magnet. Just by me showing up and presenting myself as knowledgeable on their space and their niche, that built a lot of trust and credibility very quickly. Now, the next piece that kind of touches again on the systems and processes is the offering. Going through Alex Hormozi's $100 million offers in November of last year was an absolute game changer. And of course, I had my offering. I had a way to present it over messaging if I'd like. Of course, that was helpful. Having a guarantee in there is important. Also being able to present it on calls, sure. But what it really gave me, this secret kind of killer benefit, is I was extremely confident in this offering, right? I knew it was very well fleshed out. I saw multiple problems, right? I had that conviction in my services to be able to serve my clients, right? So when I had that conviction, it sparked a great amount of motivation in my actual cold outreach. So when I was talking to people, when I had the idea of closing a $10,000 offer, right, I was much more motivated to actually reach out, get in touch with people, put the time that it takes, because I knew the dopamine reward, simple enough, was very big. And I also had conviction in what I was doing. So that backed up my messaging and the way I was showing up as that advisor. Okay, now when it comes to processes, I want to break down the sales conversation ladder. Another way to kind of describe it is like direct response marketing, but essentially it consists of these simple pieces. So the core piece is, who are they? Am I actually talking to the right person? Did I reach out to the right person? Identify that first, okay? Then I need to understand if they're trying to reach a certain goal. In my case, for coaches and consultants, they wanted more consistent revenue. There were different goals they had aligned with getting more consistent revenue, and there were different questions that I could ask that could feel into that, right? So who they were, what goals were they trying to reach? Were they struggling to achieve those goals? And then I had the opportunity to come, educate, provide some insight, invite them to my community, provide a lead magnet, build more trust there, and then have them confirm they actually want to fix the problem by asking them to, hey, let's hop on a call real quick. I can show you my processes. I can break things down for you, okay? So that simple framework is, who are they? Are they trying to reach a certain goal? Are they struggling? Teach, provide some insight to them, and then actually book a call, move them towards whatever your call to action is. I say the same thing every time. I say the same thing every time. I say the same thing every time. I take them through this sales conversation ladder every single time. Of course, I'm not just blasting them and shotgunning them with questions. I'm introducing, a bit of an intro at the top, just acknowledging what they last said, just making sure I don't sound like an absolute bot, but basically asking them the same questions to take them down that flow towards the pain, towards what goals they have, and then towards actually moving them towards a call. Okay. And the faster I could take people through this process, I found, responding to them within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I was able to get them on a call very, very quickly. So I asked questions in a way that present myself as an advisor. Here's an example of one of the questions I literally ask, right? When I'm trying to uncover what are they struggling with, right? What are their pains? Instead of just asking, hey, what's your biggest challenge, right? Like someone would say that to me, I'd be like, who are you, bro? Like who are you? Like, why should I answer your question? Like, you don't even know what my challenge is. You don't have an idea, right? But then when you ask a question like, hey, what's been your biggest challenge? I hear from a lot of coaches and consultants that a lot of them struggle with a very manual, time-consuming sales process, or they're too heavily reliant on referrals. Curious to hear what your story is, right? Think about how that question hits in the inbox versus just a simple one-sentence line. That gets people to gush. We're talking 2 paragraphs. I've been trying this, but then I had issues with that because they felt understood, because trust was built, because I showed up as an advisor. So that is the incredible importance of a sales conversation flow or ladder. This is going to stop you from, like me in the first year, going in and, let's just have a great conversation, a new icebreaker every time. I'd be talking about weird stuff, Bitcoin and blockchain and, I'd be talking about their services, like no structure. I was just trying to get them to respond and just move the conversation forward towards nowhere. Or I would pitch too aggressively. I'd come forward, say, hey, here's what I do. This is what I'm coming after you with. Are you interested, right? Also doesn't work. There is no way around a conversation with somebody to actually qualify if they're a person that you can help. You need to have a conversation with them, okay? So building out a sales conversation flow is a big part of that process, taking them through a bit of a journey. It's also going to make them feel a lot more comfortable, build more trust, and it's going to present yourself as the expert or the advisor, okay? Let's move on to the next step. Lead magnets. These are like uncovering gold, going through $100 million leads from Hormozi, his modules on lead magnets and his acquisition.com/training. Fantastic. Talking about hooking, retaining, reward, providing something very, very valuable. If you give somebody something away as a lead magnet for free and it's okay, they're also going to think your paid services are okay. But if you give something away for free that's insanely valuable, you're like, whoa, like this guy gave this to me for free? Like what? Like what is his paid stuff like, right? You have the opportunity to really knock people's socks off with a really fantastic lead magnet. And for me personally, what I built out an assessment with help from one of my partners, basically going in and asking a few questions, 2 minutes. And then I would actually score their assessment based on their avatar, their offer, their outreach, their closing. And then it actually spits out a document that is going to, these are the documents that I actually share with my clients. They're able to choose a document based on their biggest weakness. That's going to give them a full step-by-step breakdown of how to actually boost whatever their biggest weakness is. So we're talking really valuable stuff here. Now, you can definitely, if you want to check it out, it's actually in the link below. Just see how it's structured, see how I deliver it, see how it's actually made for my niche, but really putting a lot of time and energy into that. When somebody goes through that lead magnet, it's like they've consumed my content for like 2 years. It's like they become a raving fan instantly. You literally collapse time to be able to really just add a lot of value to that person very quickly to where that trust and credibility is built to where they want to give you your money. They want to work with you, right? So trying to create a really valuable lead magnet, just be willing to give away the farm. Be willing to give away your most valuable, amazing information, and then you're going to come in and sell the implementation. So usually with a lead magnet, you can introduce it in a couple ways. What I've personally been testing recently is introducing it at the beginning of a conversation, like, hey, I got this, it's for this. Mind if I send it over real quick? And then we'll spark a conversation if they say yes to that. But what's also worked well in the past is once we get to this stage, like in the sales conversation ladder, where they tell me that, okay, this is what I'm struggling with. When I educate and provide some insight, I say, hey, also check out this lead magnet. It will help you understand what your biggest weakness is, as well as me. And then also really help them identify that, right, and move forward and add some value there. So you can do it in the beginning. You can also do it once you've already established some responses back and forth and you're looking to provide some insight. So lead magnet, insanely valuable. Do not underestimate it. Really try to create something just absolutely value packed. And it's like this free information, like as Alex says, like you want to give away your free stuff needs to be better than people's paid stuff. Okay. So really take that into consideration, put a lot of time and energy into making something very, very valuable. Now, the final piece is hiring. If y'all remember if some of y'all came from my raw reality of your first 10K, I was burned by hiring in the past, right? I hired a VA, wasn't paying enough close attention to him, was not tracking what he was actually doing. And I ended up stealing time, right? I had logs that I wasn't checking. When you hire, you got to make sure that you actually take the time and attention to really help nurture the person you've hired and help them get the best results. But when done right, and especially when you have a lot of the structure that I just recently presented, having the sales conversation flow, having an established avatar, having all those processes already built out, Well, my hire can just get plugged into what I'm doing and just repeat it. Even if they're 70% as good, they're still going to have a really fantastic success rate because they're following a repeatable process that works. It's validated, right? So when you hire, make sure you try to have systems outlined for them similar to ones that I used before. Of course, there's other important things that you need to take into consideration, like onboarding and training and spending time with them one-on-one, shadowing them, reviewing their messaging. You don't want to be breathing down their neck, but you want to make sure they have the tools to actually succeed, right? So what I've personally had my first initial hires do, I currently have one for that case, and he's basically helping me come in and follow up on a lot of older messages. So I'm at a point where I'm still handling most of the active conversations, but he's basically coming into my account and bumping people from 5 days ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it may be. Because the money is in the follow-up, right? If you can go actually follow up with people, maybe they just didn't see it, maybe it slipped past them, they had the intention to reply, you're so close to booking a meeting, but if you don't track it or have somebody to actually go back and follow up with them, then that meeting's lost. So what he's been doing is like following up about 50 to 100 people a day, or usually around 1 to 2 hours of work, and then I'm actually handling the replies moving forward from there. Now, eventually wanting to have him or another person actually come in and help me do full pipeline, right? So message people, live conversations, move them towards a meeting, actually set up on the calls and then close them, right? But you do have to start small. You want to make sure you don't hand off too much at once or it's too big of an overload. And you want to make sure that you're investing in your team member and they're showing the right characteristics. If they have the right behavior, right values, they're disciplined, then I would definitely give more of a go ahead to invest more time and energy into them. But if they're showing up kind of sketchy, maybe they're not showing up on time, maybe they're skipping days, then you really have to consider, is this someone who can actually come and deliver for me and my business? Are they going to risk burning leads versus actually getting me more leads? So hiring is huge, really big time saver, and a really big value add as well. And just have them start small. And that's my recommendation. So everything I just broke down, it really just scratches the surface. There's so much more that I've been implementing currently. This is a lot that happened over the past few months. And there's new things I'm going into to add more value, always testing, always split testing. And there's just so many different ways you can actually boost your cold outreach process. But I wanted to save you the time and energy of doing cold outreach the old way that I used to do it. That was just not working. If you continue to do stuff like that, you're going to go insane, bro. So just you have to make sure that you actually have systems, processes in place. You're tracking things. You're able to follow things. But once you get them in place, once you start doing them, get into those good habits, you're going to start seeing a lot better results. And if you don't have a lot of these processes in place, you're going to struggle to actually break past that $10,000 per month mark. If you don't have anything repeatable, if you can't create meetings on demand with this process, then you're pretty much just firing in the dark, hoping and guessing for your next lead to come in. And this is something that, like I said, that I learned firsthand. As soon as I built these processes and started implementing them and executing them, my business started to explode. As soon as I implemented the sales conversation flow, I closed my first client, like $10,000 client, within 5 days. Like I'm telling y'all, going through the process, making sure you're focusing on speed is a big thing as well, responsiveness, but also following that framework is going to take you a long way. But you have to get into those right habits. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. It's an absolute pleasure to break this process down for you. I don't want you to go through the same things that I did. So please take this advice. Maybe it takes a little bit more time to actually do your homework and build those processes out first. But once you have them in place, you're going to be so grateful that you actually did. So with all that being said, I'll go ahead and see y'all in the next one. Take care.